What's up, everybody? This is the Figuring It Out Finance Podcast, show number 5, where your money questions are being answered today. My name's Chris Rickenbaugh, and my goal is to help young adults get started on their financial journey. So let's figure it out together. Now, question number 1 is it necessary to get debt? So the short answer to that is going to be no. It's not necessary to be in debt. If you follow the Dave Ramsey code, he is a zero debt person. He's buying all of his properties straight out, and that's what he's coaching people on. So through his way, you're buying your house, your car, everything straight up with cash, no financing, no nothing. So this is more of a mindset question, as debt needs to be looked at as a tool. So this is talked about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and there's many different books about that as well. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the first one that I really read, and he broke it down for me on why debt is a tool, because a lot of people are scared of it. It is a tool to help you towards your goals if you're using it right. So there's good and bad debt. So the bad debt is going to be car loans, credit card debt, and your personal house loan or mortgage. That's all going to be bad debt, because the way to think of it is that is taking money out of your pocket every single month. It's not paying you. No part of it is. So on the good side of debt, what are you going to be taking a loan out for that is going to be giving you money back? So it's probably not going to be cars unless you're really crafty and buying a car and renting it out on Turo or something like that. But as for rental properties, because that's the space that I'm in, people are buying these rental properties with 20% financing, and then they're taking on that 80% as a loan, but when they rent it out, they're making money off of it. So for kind of a short example, if you're buying a $100,000 house and you buy it for 20% down, like a normal rental property, you'd be putting $20,000 down, and then the loan would be for $80,000. So if your mortgage every month was $1,000, but you were renting it out to somebody for $1,500 a month, that would mean you're plus $500 every single month. So you're leveraging that debt to create an asset for you. And that's the way that you're going to be able to build wealth. And why the rich say they pay no taxes and how annoying that is to hear, it's because there's codes written in the American tax law that if you invest in these assets and give people housing, just for the rental property example, that you're going to be credited with these opportunities for no tax, like depreciation through your rental properties. So there's plenty of different ways. Real estate, for me, is the best direction, and that's what I'm trying to do. But to answer the question, is it necessary to get debt? No, you can pay for everything in cash and everything will be fine, but it's going to be a lot slower. So if you're trying to be rich, like the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what he's talking about in Robert Kiyosaki, here's how you do it quicker, and you can do it safe as well. Know what a good deal is, and learn to use debt as a tool and not get yourself buying bad debt. So, question number 2, what is the best way to save money? So this is one of my favorites to answer because it's kind of a it depends question. So you got to learn to think of money as a tool and not have the scarcity mindset towards it. So what I mean by that is you need to know where your money is going. So finances are an emotional thing, not a physical thing. So if you can learn to take the emotional side out of it, you're going to be able to look at your numbers all on a spreadsheet. So what my last podcast was about, know what you spend. If you're tracking your spending, you're going to be able to see exactly where your money is going, how much you're saving, how much you're bringing in, and that's going to take the emotional side out of all of that. It's not going to seem as scary because you understand where your money is going. So to break that down, if you're doing that, tracking your spending, and you can see, oh, I have $500 left over every month. All right, now we can break down into it. Where's your biggest area of spend? Could you cut something out? And do you just need to earn more money? So the biggest area of spend for everybody is going to be normally your house and your mortgage or your rent. So say your rent is $1,000 and you're spending $250 on groceries or going out to eat. You can nickel and dime that down and you can cut back on your $5 coffee, but that's not going to save you that much at all. So, like the Bigger Pockets podcast and what they're talking about in all the personal finance, they kind of graze over it. I read a lot of books, so this is something in my face all the time, but focus on that big area of spend. How can you cut down on that rent? And it's like, well, I could get a roommate. Well, that's called house hacking. So if you get a roommate and rent out your second room for $500, that $1,000 you're paying towards rent every month decreases to $500. So if you take that $500 and just put it straight into your savings account, you're saving $500 just by having a roommate. And that's why that strategy is so powerful while you're in college, to be able to learn it and live for free. So once you get out, you're used to having roommates. You already have 2 or 3 properties, and you're saving so much money every month just by not having to pay that rent or that mortgage. So if you're not understanding, or if you haven't started tracking where you're spending, or haven't started any of that thinking, that's where you need to start. You need to figure out where your biggest area of spend is, and everything is cut. And if everything is cut down, then in your house hacking, and you say, no way I would have a roommate. Well, then you just need to go out and start earning more money to be able to put some away. Maybe that's a side job, which I'm starting to do with this podcast, or working a small job 2 to 3 hours every night. There's online jobs that I'm diving into right now as well and trying to figure that out. But normally your rent and your mortgage is going to be your highest amount. So start trying to figure out how you can cut back there with the house hack. And I'll do a episode coming up soon on that topic, since that's what I do as well. So on to the final question you hear. How much money does it take to buy a house? So this is in one of my surveys that you can go and take on the figuringitoutfinance.com website. Just click if you're a student or you're not a student. But it's interesting to hear what people think, how much it actually takes to buy a house. So there's so many different answers to this question, and if you're with the right agent in my area, some of these agents are figuring out how to leverage their skills to be able to get you money back at the closing table. So what I mean by that is you could be getting a $2,000 check back at the closing table. If you find the right agent, if they know how to negotiate, you're going to be able to be in really, really good hands. So not just taking your neighbor's advice of, oh, I can help you buy a house. They might get the job done, but they're not going to be saving you the most money. So being with somebody who's really versed with first-time homeowners, knowing those right questions to ask is going to be your best strategy to get as low as possible and maybe some money back at the closing table, or just the lowest down payment possible. But to go over a couple of the loan programs, so the biggest one is going to be FHA loans. So the Federal Housing Association offers a loan that offers 3.5% down on your primary property. So you can do this, but it comes with a little bit more stress because the house has to be meeting certain requirements. You can't just buy it and move into it and fix it up on the way. It's got to be almost ready to move in. It's got to be safe. And that's what kind of creates a couple more headaches with the FHA program rather than conventional. So conventional, 3 and 5% are about the lowest you're going to get. So to go through that really quick on the 3%, so that's what the 3% conventional loan is what I bought my house with. And to do some quick math here, I bought my house at $157,000, and I used the 3% conventional loan. I paid under $5,000 for my house. So one of the answers was $100,000 is what you thought it takes to buy a house. No way. That's going to take way, way too long. And then because I leveraged a little bit more as a down payment to be able to get into the house and have the opportunity to fix it up, that way I'm putting myself in a little bit more debt in that leverage position. However, I got into the house at a really, really cheap price compared to somebody trying to pay 20% down for their down payment, which would be a lot more. So on the homeowner occupied loans, you're looking at the 3.5% FHA. I think that might have got bumped to 5%. I'm not 100% sure. But conventional loans, you could do 3 and 5% down. But if you're looking to buy a straight up rental property, you could be looking at 20%. But that's also using the debt that you're buying the house with. So if you're buying your own personal house and you don't want that high mortgage, a bigger down payment is probably going to help you a little bit more because that payment is going to be down a little bit more for every month. But on the flip side, if you're trying to buy a couple houses, you could, like I am right now, I'm trying to buy one per year. So the 3 and the 5% down is going to be my strategy because I don't have to save that much. I can just keep buying one per year. So one of the other ways is seller financing, which would be instead of going through a bank, the seller would own their house outright and they would be able to be the bank for you. So say it's a $100,000 house, and you could go to the bank and put 3 or 5% down. But if you negotiate it with the seller who owns their house outright, you could negotiate a $0 down deal with 0% interest, which is going to be way more attractive and a lot cheaper for you than going to the bank where they're going to be charging on those interest rates. And then there's another loan program like the 0% down with the NACA program, which I've heard a lot about, but I've never been through since I've already bought my house. So many, many different ways to be able to buy a house with no or low money down. You just have to really be creative. You have to get the right agent and the right deal, whether that's seller financing, whether that's going through a bank. And then just really being creative and keeping your eyes open. So that's all I got for the questions today. You can submit your questions through the surveys at figuringitoutfinance.com. Keep tuning into the podcast, and I'll see you next time.